So next topic we'll focus our attention towards classification on the basis of stages of demand. So under that, the first point what we are going to discuss is how the demand is being generated with respect to existing markets. We all know that company which are already being served with existing markets always would like to take things very lightly because it should not be done in that fashion because both the existing market as well as the latent or the incipient markets, all these things are very much important because it doesn't means to say that company cannot take things that much lightly. And these things always is one of the important things what company always should keep up in mind, that and equal importance should also be given for already where it is being serving the markets. And apart from that, it should also have its focus towards something called as latent markets, wherein which potential customers always has one or the other thing that always expects from from the product what they are trying to use at any point of time. And apart from that, we have got incipient markets, wherein which it is purely focusing on the emergence of future market needs and preferences for a product and services that will create a very potent markets. And we can see that the products which are not readily available in the current situation, and if any market gets an access to that sort of new product, it always generates more interest in the minds of a customer. Even the market will also starting to give more importance for such type of products. And next thing is classification on the basis of stages of demand. Mainly have it has got three important things. One is industrially developed economies, more developed and developing countries, and raw material exporting economies. Say, for example, in case of industrially developed economies, we can take the example of Japan, France, Germany, Spain, and other European countries where industrially they are very far developed economies when you compare with respect to the Indian economies. And industrially they are developed far ahead than us when we compare with respect to the stages of development. We all know that India is a very strong service-oriented economy, but these countries have got a very strong industrially developed economies. And second instances, we are looking at more developed and developing countries like India and other countries are basically being given a tag as developed and developing countries. And we have another economies called as raw material exporting economies, where there are certain countries which they have been given a tag as raw material exporting economies, which also plays a very important role to look at these things where exactly they exist in the market. And apart from that, we should also look at the other basis of division of world markets, that is based on the basis of population as well as on the basis of gross national products. We see that constantly India and China are fighting along with each other across border as well as in terms of economic developments, industrialization, and population is other thing which both the countries are fighting very hard not to increase it but to reduce it. Uh, Very recently, when we look at the numbers, it clearly indicates that India has almost overtaken China with respect to the population. But China is putting their hard efforts to make sure to reduce the population because as more and more population increases, that will have a adverse impact on the development of those nations. So that is the one reasons where we can see most of the European countries have got very less population comparative to the Indian population numbers, but still they could able to achieve that much of economies of scale that they could able to excel. Also, along with that, we should also look at the different factors with respect to identifying the foreign markets. Basically, we need to have two types of approaches here. One is the reactive approach, and another one is the systematic approach. When we talk in terms of reactive approach, it is nothing but how foreign orders cannot be anticipated on a right aspect, and sometimes we can expect some of the orders to be accidentally getting to our convenience. Say, for example, India is very good in manufacturing of pharmaceutical products or some of the life-saving drugs. There could be some pandemic which have suddenly erupted in some of the global markets, and India is the potential suppliers of those antidotes or subsequent drugs, which usually helps to subsidize those rate of spreading of pandemic. So that could be another instances. And second thing is dealing with economic pressure for a sales increase. We can see that most of the companies are putting their hard efforts with respect to enhancing their economic pressures to make sure that they are number one, and they are always putting their hard efforts to increase the sale. So, for example, recently in India, Apple has started are planning to start their manufacturing of iPhones, because the reason is very simple. It is not because iPhone is getting that much demand in India, but to counter the competition that was given by Samsung and other Chinese phone manufacturer, because Samsung has got its own set of manufacturing plant in India, and locally it manufactures one of its flagship phones like S series, which has got a very good what you call as functionality and good features and designing aspects when we look at iPhone. So these things might give a lot of economic pressure for a company even like Apple to come out in open and to do some aggressive strategies to start off their own production units in India. And second type of uh, uh, way of identifying foreign markets is to have something called as a proactive approach. Here, in case of proactive approach, we know that always things should happen without getting any instructions from any of the hierarchical individuals, but things should happen on its own. So, in that line, always we need to give more importance for something called as proactiveness, and company should always be somewhat like proactive as what Apple recently done, and proactively they are taking corrective measures to tackle the unprecedented competition that is being given by Samsung and other Chinese phone markets. So that is a good example to substantiate the proactiveness in terms of systematic approach. And the second important thing what we need to concentrate is on concentration of resource as needed. We always tend to look at something called as optimal utilization of resources, because it is a need of an hour. We can't use only 50% of the resources, and that might not fetch any sort of profitability to any of the organization. And that is the reason why organization always are striving very hard to achieve the performance excellence with respect to very good managing of performances, which in turn will always help us to use the better utilization of the available talent as well as the resources, and to making it more optimal usage. These things are very much are required in this current competitive world. And the third point in case of systematic approach is mainly based on market scanning and research. And this is the outcome which is mainly based on how well the company is able to scan the market to identify the different variables like the quality factor or the specification factors or the features or the pricing or the overall what you call as aesthetics of a product, designing things, logistic aspects, distribution, marketing, promoting, branding. All these things are the main ingredients of doing something called as market scanning. And also, market scanning will also provide an ample opportunity to understand the basic mindset of the people who are residing in those countries. And by scanning all these variables, it provides a very good opportunity for the companies to conduct a valid research programs to even further get in-depth analysis of the outcome of market scanning, because company cannot go blindly and manufacture the product without doing any of their homeworks. So that is the reason why this is a basic building points with respect to doing in a thorough market scanning, which should be equally complemented with a very good market research. And if you blend these two things, the outcome will be always will be a very fruitful one for both the foreign markets as well as to the organization which are operating across the borders.